Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, the 4th of September. Welcome back to the D3D4 football podcast dedicated to all things Leagues 1 and 2. And welcome to a review of matchday 7 in the world's best third and fourth tiers. I apologise if my voice sounds a bit croaky today. I don't know if it is coming through that way or not, but I had a very long night last night. My train back from London Euston was parked behind a service vehicle for most of the journey, so it went about half speed. I probably could have walked back home quicker than the train actually did itself. And then I get back in, have a very late night trying to put this together for you, and hopefully we can produce a decent quality podcast and a review of the teams that were in action yesterday. There's three of us on this call today. It is myself, Edward Walker, alongside David Jenkin and Chris Stringer. David, how's your week been?
Meh. Just
common theme here.
Like, honestly, I don't feel like I can bring myself to show any real happy emotions today, to be quite honest with you. I think yesterday was just awful.
Is the sun out?
No, it's very cloudy here, so I feel like the weather probably matches my mood more than usual.
Chris, any positives from you?
I went to my first conference as a PhD student, which was very exciting.
Cool.
The transport either side wasn't exciting. The trains also let me down this week, and it's raining here, but I've been dying for a bit of rain because I'm northern, so I'm quite enjoying it.
You're kind of used to it, aren't you, up there?
Yeah, it's been very strange this summer not having much grey weather. I've been very unsettled.
Yeah, I love National Rail. What an invention. Fantastic. A reminder before we get going, this podcast is in partnership with The Big Step, which tackles football's relationship with gambling. There is an excessive presence of gambling adverts within football, and the Big Step continue to do great work to raise awareness about the dangers of gambling and the impact it can have on so many people's lives. A big thank you as well to all our Patron members whose input allows us to get this podcast going, to keep the website running as well. D3D4 Football simply would not exist without you, and we really appreciate you. So let's get going, and we'll begin with the world's best third tier.
League One.
League One, a lot of games to pick from actually. Some very interesting scorelines certainly came out yesterday. I think we're going to kick it off, David, with the game at Pride Park. Let's talk about Derby County 2, Plymouth Argyle 3.
Yeah, it looks like a really good game here, to be fair. Derby making two changes, Sibley and Dobbin dropping to the bench to make way for Mendes, Lang and McGoldrick to come into the side. Bit surprised, actually, here, Ed, because McGoldrick played more of a 10 role than he did up front, which is not a role that I would typically associate with him as a player. It seemed to do a decent enough job there. Argyle made three changes yesterday, with Adam Rendell, Morgan Whittaker and Ryan Hardy coming into the side to replace Horton, Azaz and Ennis. The game in general, pretty good, to be fair. I mean, Derby opening the scoring, McGoldrick just capitalising on a mistake from Galloway to feed in James Collins, who just tapped it in for the opener. Plymouth probably could have been level, but Jason Knight with a really nice block on the line to deny him there. Arguably against the run of play, I would say Derby have then got up the other end and a really lovely chance carved out by Mendes Lang, who definitely has earned his place in this team today because he's just danced through that Plymouth defence to double the lead. And then Whittaker, Morgan Whittaker pulled one back, the former Derby player, before Super Sam Cosgrove, with the deadline day signing, pulls back 3 points with a debut double. It's mental, isn't it?
This
absolutely
is incredible.
Mental. Like, not scored. I believe, if I'm right, I may be wrong, so correct me if I am, but I believe he's not scored any goals professionally since this. Was this his first?
He had a couple, I believe, during his time at Shrewsbury. I think he got one at AFC Wimbledon as well, but he's almost matched that tally in one game.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's incredible, really. I mean, he came in on deadline day, and I think naturally you can't help but kind of react to what you've seen before. He was poor at the side.
Underwhelming
signing. It felt underwhelming at the time. Yeah, he'd been brought from Aberdeen by Birmingham City for a couple of million, I think a couple of years ago now, and it's really looked like a terrible signing, really, for him. He was in effect to Birmingham. He had loan spells in League One with Shrewsbury and Wimbledon, neither of them particularly impressed by what happens. He comes to Argyle, and yesterday it was like watching an accomplished finisher. It was incredible, really, the pair of goals that he got. The first one, a very nice finish from close range, rolled across to him. The second goal, where he steals possession after that heavy touch and the outside the boot finish.
It's just so casual,
wasn't it? It's amazing.
It's almost as
brilliant.
If he's, done that for his whole life.
It's incredible, really. And I remember I joked with Plymouth fans that if Steven Schumacher gets goals out of him, he deserves the England job. Well, it is only one game, but my God, that's magnificent. That's incredible, really.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, I think since coming on, like, he really, really did change the game for Plymouth in this one. But, you know, it's not worth taking the whole of it away from Derby because they played really well up until, you know, they played decently well. But yeah, I think Plymouth were obviously good for the win in the end. But the thing that I think is more surprising for me, as I'm sure it is for you guys, is the source of those 2 goals to complete that turnaround.
Brilliant for Argyle as well. It's one hell of a win. I think Derby had been unbeaten up to this point at Pride Park as well. And it's a stark reminder, we get a lot of them every single week really, that football is a 90-minute game and not a 45-minute game, because I'd imagine the emotions at half-time for both sets of fan base were very different to the full-time ones.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But what a comeback for Argyle and what a win for them at Pride Park. Chris, Portsmouth 2, Peterborough United 1.
Yeah, a bit of a top of the table clash, I think, of course early on in the season, but 2 of the heavyweights in the league, I think. And it was Pompey that came out 2-1 winners. And the signing that caught my eye, I think it was deadline day, certainly close to the end of the window, was Josh Koroma coming in from Huddersfield.
Did you see the announcement video as well?
I didn't see that, no.
Oh, it was brilliant. It was Gavin and Stacey. it was just like that. It was... I can't quote word for word, but if you find it, do, because it's brilliant. There's been some top class signing announcements. I think Burnley's have probably been best for all the ones they've done in the Championship, but there's been some good ones now.
Yeah, there have been some very, very good ones. But you know, I was impressed that he's actually sort of dropped down a league, because he was in a pretty successful Huddersfield team in a division higher, and he came on for the second half, got half an hour towards the end, and came in with an assist with a pretty tidy pass. For the second goal for Pompey. It was Dane Scarlett that got both the goals. First one was sort of a well-worked set piece.
That cross from Robertson was fantastic.
It was a superb header as well. It was just all beautiful. And then the second one was a nice little pass in from Koroma, and a bit of a nice first touch to just open up it was actually quite a tight angle. It was sort of towards the centre of the goal, but with the positioning of the defenders, it was quite a sort of
It's almost kind of used as a bit of a shield, hasn't he, to block the keeper's view and just fired it through him.
Yeah, for sure. I think Pompey will be disappointed with the way they conceded their goal. It was sort of really, I don't know what the word is, sort of lazy defending almost to let Clark Harris win possession back. And then it was a simple play across to Marriott, who had an open goal. And, I think Peterborough come away with this a little bit disappointed, having dominated possession, nearly 60% of the possession, but just wasteful. But I think overall a pretty exciting game.
Yeah, really, really good one. It was such an eye-catcher ahead of the games taking place, and it's delivered, and Portsmouth retain their position right at the top of the table. They're joint up there with Ipswich Town, and it's separated by just goal difference. I wonder how Joey Barton's feeling about his 4-4-2 comments, because it's still working so well for Portsmouth, really. It's great to see that a formation is still considered quite basic and do such good things, and I think now you've added Josh Koroma and really to add to what you've got with Dane Scarlett, who's performing really well on loan from Spurs. They've got Piggott as well. You've got Colby Bishop there as well. They'll be bringing Rico Agate-Fairchild, one of the youngsters, off the bench as well.
I'm going to try and get down and watch
phenomenal.
I'm going to try and get down and watch Portsmouth next week. They're playing in Barnsley, so not too far from me, and it's just an exciting time to be watching them, isn't it? 17 points from the start of the season.
It is, and I know I've said in the past I'm quite hesitant getting excited about a Pompey team because of how they've been quite inconsistent recently. This one deserves to get excited about. This is a great team that the Cowleys have built here, and they've had a sensational start to their season. Another win, this one at Hillsborough, but not for the home side this time. Sheffield Wednesday 0, Barnsley 2. Goals for Barnsley forwards in this one. The first from Devante Cole. He latched onto a loose ball, slotted the ball into the far corner. Chance for Luke Thomas as well in the second half, curling the ball onto the bar. Could have made 2-0 to Barnsley. Lee Gregory had a big chance that was missed to Sheffield Wednesday as well. But Barnsley continued to have a lot of good chances. Jack Aitchison had a low drive that was denied, and they eventually got the second goal through a Luke O'Connell corner that was powered in by the head of James Norwood for what Michael Duff described as a really complete performance and an excellent result for Barnsley. And it really is excellent, to be honest, because they become the first team to beat Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough in any competition since Rotherham beat Sheffield Wednesday back on the 13th of February. It's been quite a run at Hillsborough for Wednesday, certainly. That's also Barnsley's first away win in a league game since the 22nd of February as well. So they've waited a long time, and I'm very pleased for them because it's been a rather mixed bag of results for the Tykes at the start of the season, including some pretty tough tests in there as well. Regards to deadline day, some interesting news that came out of Barnsley, really. Michael Hellick is gone. He's been bought by Huddersfield Town. He's going to play in the division above. And we've also seen Hungary international Callum Stiles depart as well. I remember seeing this story circling around throughout all of deadline day, really, that a move to Stiles was quite likely, and it ended up being confirmed. What's happened is that he signed a new contract at Barnsley that's going to run until 2025, but he's going to be spending the rest of this season on loan in the division above at Millwall. And as far as I'm aware, there's no option to buy at the end of that loan. So the third tier has lost its Hungary international, which is a shame because he's a top player. And I've no doubt he'll be a top player down in Millwall as well.
You just love that he's a Hungary international.
I love that he's a Hungary international. He's called Callum Stiles. I'll say that. But he's still going to be a Barnsley player at the end of this loan. So that's quite interesting to know that he's going to be playing in the division above. But for now, certainly still remains under contract at Barnsley.
It does happen occasionally. There's usually a bit of a financial benefit, but it is always strange when that happens.
Well, the link was going around. I was never quite sure what kind of deal came through, and it's ended up being a loan to Millwall for the season to them. They brought in Tom Edwards on loan from Stoke City as a new fullback option. He was on the bench yesterday for the game at Hillsborough. And they've also announced the permanent signing of Adam Phillips from Burnley. Now, anyone who knows me knows how much I adore Adam Phillips. I have been a massive fan of him ever since I first saw him in action on loan at Morecambe in early 2020, where he had a really big impact on the Shrimps in just a handful of games before football got stopped by COVID. He went back on loan to Morecambe at the start of the 2021 season. He's brilliant again. He had a spell at Accrington Stanley, and he spent all of last season on loan at Morecambe again, making a big impact and helping the Shrimps secure safety in their maiden League One season. Phillips is an excellent attack-minded midfielder who can play in advanced positions. He's got very impressive creative and goal-scoring abilities from behind the front line, and I am really excited to see what he can bring to Barnsley during his time at Oakwell. I think that's going to be a great match for the two of them, and I'm excited to see that, certainly. Chris, another win away from home, a 2-0 victory. Accrington Stanley 0, Ipswich Town 2.
Yeah, late for this one. They actually got both their goals in the final 15 minutes. But I think actually that doesn't sort of represent a late change of form for Ipswich. I think they were pretty dominant across the match, and I don't think Accrington fans can have too much to complain about with this result. There was a bit of a masterclass in midfield, I thought, from Lee Evans. And the two goals came from, who have we got here? I've just lost my notes on this bit. Connor Chaplin and Wes Burns. The first one coming from a corner, and it was, I put in my notes acrobatic. I'm not sure. I think that might be a bit of a stretch. It was sort of
it kind of felt like it fell to him. I felt
it fell to him, and there was a bit of a twist and a half overhead kick sort of thing. But very much deserved in front of the travelling fans who looked to have brought a fair few. It's a long trip, and it's a bit of a horrible away end.
They're not fared too well with Accrington in recent years either.
No, they haven't. So I think it's out their first win at the Wham Stadium. Certainly they've always sort of struggled with them. And then the second goal, bit of a nasty deflection. Wes Burns sort of from the edge of the penalty area hits it, and it sort of close to being an own goal. The level of deflection it came off one of the defenders. But they came away 2-0 winners and came out with 65 possession, 18 shots to Accrington's 10. It feels like a pretty fair result. If not, they maybe should have had a couple more, I think.
Big results for Ipswich really to continue their phenomenal start to the season. They still feel quite grieved by what happened in that Barnsley game last week as well at Portman Road, being denied that goal from Marcus Harness. But this is a superb win here. What do we think about their two deadline day signings that came in? They got Gaston Ahadme in from Burton Albion, they bought him, and they also went and bought Panucci Kamara as well, a midfielder who had been at Plymouth Argyle as well. That, for me, is just adding strength to what is already a phenomenal group of players.
Yeah, the Kamara signing really
Absolutely
stood out for me. I thought that was a really smart signing. I think you could probably talk to me a bit more about the former of those signings.
Yeah, Ahadme, his growth has been noticeable even in the last 2 weeks, really. I think he's probably been brought in to be something a little bit different up top to them yesterday. He started on the bench to them, did come on. It's the growth in his overall game that's been really noticeable at Burton, really. he'd been in decent goal scoring form. He was Burton's top scorer. Now that's not the case anymore. They've got their own striker issues, which I'm not going to get into because I've vented my frustration about it really already.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see a striker leave you guys actually.
Oh, we're not going to go. We're not going to go, Chris. We're going to focus on Ipswich. But I think I think the idea is that they've got a lot of striker options. It'd be interesting to see where he stands exactly in the pecking order. But I think the idea is that maybe the certain kind of opposition calls for someone who can be relentless up top, a bit more of a focal point, can bring others into the game, and a handmaker with that. But the Paducci Kamara signing is one of my absolute favourites. I love the guy ever since I've seen the Crawley Town, really, and the growth he's had in his game, whether he's someone who could be so good carrying the ball through midfield with the long limbs he has. He's just able to keep possession as he can glide through midfield and carry it up the pitch as well. I think he's going to be a fantastic player to them, and he adds to what is already a phenomenal Ipswich squad.
He's one of those players that you sort of... He's quite limmy, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's sort of quite surprising to see that he's actually a very technically gifted player. He looks like he should be a bit like sort of Bambi on ice is the phrase I like, all over the place, but he's actually a very, very talented player.
Yeah, I think some people would maybe be expecting him to leave Argyle for a championship club after the performance he's been having in Argyle, but he's gone to Ipswich now, so he stays in League One for now, but the way Ipswich are going, he might not stay in League One.
Yeah, I was going to say, it probably gives him a bit more game time for now, and there's a good chance it'll be a championship club next season if things go to plan.
He does got a bit of competition though, because the centre of that park with Morsey and Evans is a good partnership, certainly. David, Cambridge United 2, Lincoln City 0.
Yeah, firstly though, before I get into the game, I want to shout out a bit to Cambridge fans, because I noticed that in the news this week, Cambridge United have repurchased the Abbey, which they there was the whole debacle back in 2005 where they dropped down into the conference, went into administration. So firstly, massive for Cambridge, what an important acquisition to be back in control of such a big asset for them. Getting into the game, only change in the game really saw Anthony Scully come in for Loney Jack Diamond on the flank for Lincoln. It seemed to be a pretty comfortable victory, this one for Cambridge, maintaining their unbeaten home record this season. Joe Ironside for the first one. Kind of back to goal, makes it has come in off of a deflection, back to goal, has made a really smart turn and just places it into the bottom corner. And then just 3 minutes later secures his brace.
I think that's a really nice goal, that second one.
Really it was. Move. It was. I really like the way Harvey Nibbs is he's made a really nice driving run, and then I like how Joe Ironside, he's not just running there, he's kind of sat back, almost the best I can describe it is Benzema-esque, where he just sort of sits back and waits, and it's the positioning that really makes the difference, and sort of sits there. The ball just comes in from Harvey Nibbs, he just taps it in for his brace in the second of the game. But for me, this seems generally quite a comfortable victory for Cambridge. I'm a bit worried, if I'm honest, about Lincoln, but I'm sure over the season this kind of stuff will even itself out. Focusing on Cambridge, very good win for them, and I think that puts them up into 5th in the table now.
Phenomenal start. They've been superb at the Abbey.
Yeah, it's just, there seems to be quite a few teams that are getting those unbeaten starts at home, which is great, but I think for me, Cambridge is just more of a surprise, because it's obviously it's very early in the season, but this is not where I would, if you'd told me after 7 games they'd be in the playoff places, I probably would have laughed you out the room. I wouldn't have believed it, but absolute fair play to Cambridge and to all of the work Mark Bonner's doing there.
I think if anyone had any questions about second season syndrome, they've probably been answered now, really.
I think they might have just been, yeah.
I am a little bit worried about Lincoln, though. I was chatting to someone about this in the week, and initially said I'm not too worried, but looking at the performances over the start of the season, they've got 1 win, 4 draws, 2 losses. It's not exactly exciting.
And you've seen Anthony Scully go to Wigan as well, who's been one of their main goal outputs recently.
They've not really done much on deadline day or actually in the latter part of the transfer window at all, and it's a little bit worrying for me.
It is. They got in Jack Diamond, who's a player I really, really like. He's on a loan from Sunderland. I'm just trying to off the top. It's a loan deal from Sunderland. Yeah, he's been great for a couple of years at Harrogate Town. Very good. Good to see him playing League One as well after a couple of years in League Two, and I hope it can be good for them. But again, with Lincoln, it's concerning, really.
Mm-hmm.
Has to be. But a brace the Joe Ironside to Cambridge United. That guy is a warrior. He was bandaged up for this game as well. I believe he had a head injury during it as well, but that doesn't stop him getting a brace and continuing.
How old is Ironside now?
Ironside is 28.
But it feels like he's been around forever.
He has had a good part. I remember first seeing William Macclesfield when he was partnered. He was an option up there instead of maybe Harry Smith or what was the guy's name?
Oh,
Wilson.
Yeah.
What was his first name?
Yeah, we signed.
He went down to non-league. It's passed me by, but I remember seeing him for that and quite liking looking at him there. And when he formed that partnership with Paul Munnan in League Two for Cambridge as well, you had a guy who had such a great spring on him, despite not maybe being that tall a player compared to others. And he formed this brilliant partnership with Mullen. And since then, he's been taking that number 9 position his own, and he's sensational for them. And that's a brace to him, a win for Cambridge, and they're up in the playoff spots. And you just can't say any more really about them under Mark Bonner. They've been superb. David, Bolton Wanderers 3, Charlton Athletic 1.
Yeah, so this one opened up with Jesrin Raksaki. The Palace loanee, I have to say, boys, looks a very, very impressive talent for this level. Almost looks like he maybe shouldn't be playing this level with how easy he seems to be finding it so far, especially this season anyway. But he provided the assist for the Scott Fraser opener. Just 6 minutes later, Connor Bradley, who had a phenomenal game yesterday, met Jack Iredale's cross to bring things level. Bolton doubled their lead with a driving run from Geffen Jones. The right centre back playing that kind of driving role. Played a 1-2 with Connor Bradley. He's gone, to his credit, Connor Bradley's gone for a shot. It's been completely scuffed. It's gone into the path of Kieran Lee, who's tapped it in the back of the net. And Bolton's third coming from George Johnson after a ball played across the box from a set piece. Really nice little, almost a training ground routine where they've just passed it through the defence, put it across, a bit of argy-bargy to try and get it in the back of the net, but secured that win for Bolton. But yeah, I mean, for me, I think I really found it really interesting, the partnership that Connor Bradley had on that side, and to note that he was pushing so high, it was almost like they were playing with a winger rather
Charlton
than a
just
wing
couldn't
back.
handle them.
No,
Him and Ardale on the other side.
Both of the wing backs were just pushing so high that it was just overloading Charlton, so that it was stretching them so wide. But I think the other big thing was obviously then when they're so high up, and then you've got the centre back in Geffen Jones, who's then making those runs up. When he's then playing wide, you had Connor Bradley dropping inside. So almost at times he was playing a winger, but you almost had him playing an inverted winger at times where he's dropping into the middle to make that space for Jones to come out the outside. It was really interesting to watch. But yeah, as you say, like Charlton were completely overloaded, and I don't think they had any kind of answers for the fullbacks of Bolton. And it just, at that point, it was sort of game over, really.
No, they had a very quick start going ahead through Scott Fraser, Charlton within minutes, but Bolton turned it around with the kind of display that we really want to expect from the Everett side, and the wing backs in this situation, Connor Bradley and Jack Ardale, was superb. And you mentioned Geffen Jones there. I quite like this idea now that people are going for the wider centre backs in a back three. Sometimes maybe consider natural full backs as well. People who are naturally used to quite bombing up the side, providing that overlapping support as well. It can certainly cause problems when you're in possession.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing tactically as well, isn't it? Really, to have kind of bring those centre backs more into an attacking role and sort of be able to cause more of those overloads in the wide areas, especially if you've got like a striker and you've got sort of striking options and midfielders that are going to push in as well. And Bolton are certainly not short of attacking talent. So obviously it can leave you vulnerable in the counter-attack, but I think this has really helped them in terms of being able to create those overloads in the flanks.
It's kind of high risk, high reward, and it does leave you very open to a counter-attack if it goes wrong.
But at the same time, you've also got high numbers in the box, and they've got to deal with that quite often. You've got a man advantage.
Well, that's it. And if you're this clinical, then really, like, why not employ that? Especially if you're going to have a team, against a team like Charlton, who are going to be so stretched at the back, that, they have to kind of, like, the overload has worked perfectly in this particular game, especially, typically against a back four, having to stretch them that far across. And Bolton have gone out with a game plan and executed it to perfection.
Yeah.
For sure. Over to Nailsworth. Forest Green Rovers 0, Shrewsbury Town 2. Reckle Pike getting the opener for Shrewsbury. I believe that is his first league goal for the Shrews. He's been there for a number of years now. Had a loan spell at Scunthorpe last season as well. I believe that's the first league goal he's got for Shrewsbury. So it's a bit of a rare moment really to see Reckle Pike get on the score sheet in the league game for them. Couple of chances to Miles Pert Harris in this game for Forest Green. One of them cleared off the line by Luke Leahy. Another saved later on, a great save for Markham Morosi as well. But Shrewsbury got a second goal, a very nice bit of link up between Jordan Shipley and Tom Bayes, a couple of ex-Coventry boys. Shipley ultimately grabbing the second goal as well. Shrewsbury are still yet to lose on the road this season. It's been a pair of draws and a pair of wins from their 4 away matches so far. It's only Ipswich Town, who have a maximum 12 points from a possible 12, that possess a better away record than them. They've been really good on the road so far, Shrews. And they've been hit by some very unfortunate injuries recently. In fact, we got the news on Friday that Daniel Ludo, one of the forwards, is likely to miss the rest of the season after rupturing his ACL. I heard as well yesterday that Julian Da Costa is on loan from Coventry, is expected to be out for a month as well. It leaves you quite thankful to some of the deadline day business that the Shrews were able to do, because as far as I'm aware, their last signing prior to deadline day was Taylor Moran from Bristol City, and that happened on the 4th of July. So it's been quite a wait for Salop to get some signings in.
I did see the video for this signing, though, for Carl Winchester. That was a good video.
Yes, this was a great signing announcement. If you sign Carl Winchester, there is only one clip you can use. It has to be the one from Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Has to.
Yeah.
Has to. Yeah, it had been a long wait for Salop signing time, but we got it on 3 occasions on Friday, all of them loans. Carl Winchester in from Sunderland, as we said. He's a very popular figure at Forest Green, who we played yesterday. He's a popular figure at Sunderland too. He's a really nice composed midfielder, someone who can operate in a right-back role if needed as well. And then Shrewsbury went and got a couple of Oldham as well.
Sorry?
Was he at Oldham as well? Winchester,
yeah, that's where he started.
Yeah, it was, wasn't he? Yes. I just thought that in my head, just clocked in my head right there.
If you want an example of what he can do, go and watch his assist for the third goal against Liverpool in 2013.
You beat Liverpool. I've never heard you mention that before.
We've had one good thing in 20 years.
Yeah, Winchester in, and then a pair of strikers in on loan as well. Christian Said on loan from AC Bournemouth. He was at Burton Albion in the back end of last season. He's a player who's got pretty phenomenal physicality, really, but there's been maybe a lot of questions with his overall decision making in the final third. There's plenty of time for that to grow, though, for sure. And then he got Rob Streeton on loan from Crystal Palace as well. He was on loan at Newport County in the second half of last season, got his first senior goals there. Both the new strikers started on the bench yesterday and came on to play in what was a very enjoyable win on the road to Salop and a great result for them at Nailsworth. Win to talk about a home win this time. Exeter City 1, Milton Keynes Dons 0. Some very good saves throughout this game. A goalless first half and some great saves in the second as well from both Jamie Cumming and Jamal Blackman for Exeter as well. The goal came from one of Exeter's own, Czech Diabate, heading in from a Giovanni Brown corner. Now, yesterday at St James Park was a day loaded with emotion and with very good reason. It all stems from a transfer that Exeter City confirmed on Friday, and it is my favourite transfer of the entire transfer window, easily. Exeter City announced the signing of 19-year-old Jay Stansfield on a season-long loan from Fulham. Now, if you're not already aware, the Stansfield name is a name immortalised into Exeter City forever, and it originates from Adam Stansfield, who was a striker who played for the Grecians between 2006 and 2010. He was part of a very successful Exeter City side that won back-to-back promotions, going from the Conference Premier, as it was known back then, up to League One in the space of 2 consecutive seasons. In April 2010, Adam Stansfield was diagnosed with colorectal cancer, and he passed away 4 months later on in August 2010. There have been numerous posthumous honours towards Stansfield since. There's a foundation set up in his name. I would urge everyone to go check it out. They do such amazing work to change so many people's lives in the UK. Adam Stansfield is part of the Exeter City Hall of Fame. The West Stand at St James Park, which runs alongside both Welsh Street and the nearby railway, is named after Stansfield as well. And for nearly a decade, Exeter City retired the number 9 shirt that Adam Stansfield wore whilst he was playing. But for the last couple of seasons, it's now become a tradition that number 9 shirt in the Exeter squad is given exclusively to players who are produced by their own academy, and it's an exceptional academy as well, we should say. Jay Stansfield is Adam Stansfield's son. He was born in Tiverton. He was working his way through the famous academy at Exeter City before being bought by Fulham while still a youngster, and he is starting to come into the first team frame now. He's going to spend the season on loan at Exeter City, his boyhood club, and he is going to wear the number 9 shirt that his father wore. The Stansfield 9 is back, and it is a beautiful story, really. He was on the bench yesterday for that win over MK Dons, came on in the 79th minute. No debut goal from him, but
caused a bit of trouble, didn't he?
It caused trouble. I'm pretty sure there will be goals from him to come, really. Listening to a number of Fulham fans, he probably could have had a championship loan, really. He's thought of very highly at Craven Cottage. He's been earning minutes during Fulham's start to their Premier League season as well. If there was one club in League One that Jay Stansfield was going to head on loan to, it had to be Exeter City because of the connection he had. Yeah. And I'm thrilled that Fulham have allowed this to happen, really, that we're going to get to see a Stansfield 9 in action again at St James Park. Get ready for his first goal at home in front of that home crowd, because it is going to be some moment for sure. It's just a beautiful story, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is just fantastic. You know, it's always sort of a nice thing to see, you know, a father-son sort of duo at a club, so to speak, but with the sort of emotional side of this, in terms of his dad dying at such a young age, and being such a popular character at Exeter, it really is something special and something quite unique.
The Stansfield 9 will be in action at Exeter City for the season. I can't wait to see more of it, certainly. Another home win to talk about, Oxford United 2, Burton Albion 1. A bit of a nothing first half, to be truthful. I think it was best summarised by James Richards, who put out this tweet that said, there are landfills with less rubbish in them than that first half. Pretty good summary there, James, I'd have to say.
Boundary Park exists.
He's called that a landfill. Okay. Oxford got the lead early in the second half. A rebound after an initial shot hit the bar. There were 3 Oxford players in place to get onto that potential rebound. Just the one Burton man. It was Cameron Brannigan ultimately who controlled the ball and fired it past Viljami Sinisalo for 1-0. Oxford's second goal from Carl Joseph. Just thinking about it, to be honest, makes my blood boil. I mean, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank has rightly been getting quite a bit of stick for Burton's atrocious start to this season. But I don't think these Burton players should be getting off scot-free, by the way. This is the leakiest defence in the league, and it is partly because there's been some absolute howlers at the back, and that second goal yesterday certainly was one of them. If you haven't seen it yet, do. I don't want to talk about it because, quite frankly, it's just going to wind me up. It's a real disgrace of a moment.
I'll tell you what was a disgrace, that combination of kits.
Well, again, it's the stupid not allowed to clash with socks, so they have to wear yellow socks.
But you can clash with shorts, it seems.
No, you're not meant to. When they played Cambridge last week, they had to wear yellow shorts and yellow socks with a black top.
Because I thought this was the rule, but they were both teams were in black shorts yesterday.
Well, they both.
I'm sorry.
I'm sure they were. Now I'm really confused.
I was very confused, but I was watching the highlights this morning. I was very confused, sort of. And the yellow socks just made it was all very upsetting for me.
Go talk to James. He's got very strong opinions about kits, of course, no doubt. Victor Adebayejo got a goal back for Burton. I don't want to go into my feelings on the strike situation at the club right now because it'll be Saturday by the time I'm done really with it. So I'm not going to do it. Well done to Oxford on the win. They've needed that because it's been a rather uncomfortable start to their season. But that is now 3 consecutive wins to the U's in all competitions. You can't ever complain at that, really. So very good to them. 3 draws to run through to wrap up League One. Port Vale 2, Cheltenham Town 2. A great touch and finish from Dan and Lundulu to give Cheltenham the lead. An equaliser for Port Vale. A deep cross headed in by one of the new signings, Mipo Odebeko, for his first goal. Port Vale then took the lead. A Taylor Perry own goal from a corner. Ellis Harrison header hit the bar in the second half. But it ended up being a draw late on. A late draw secured with Charlie Brown grabbing a decisive Cheltenham equaliser in the 92nd minute. A couple of notable deadline day signings I'd like to briefly mention for these two clubs. Dennis Politic has returned on loan to Port Vale, on loan from Italian side Cremonese. There's nothing but pure delight to Vale Park to that news. He was very popular for them.
I didn't realise he'd gone to Italy.
He'd gone out to Italy, yeah. He'd been bought from Bolton, and I remember Vale fans doing pretty gutted when he went out there. Well, he's going to be back at Vale Park now, and they're going to love that. And a familiar face in a Wadham Road as well. Ryan Broom is back permanently now at Cheltenham Town, having left the Peterborough United in 2020, and it's impossible not to feel excited about that.
Yeah, that's great.
That is really good. Bristol Rovers 2, Morecambe 2. Aaron Collins had a very busy game in this. He hit both posts in the first half, actually, but it was Morecambe who took the lead through Jensen Weir with a beauty from outside the box to give Morecambe the lead. Collins would end up finding Ryan Loth with a cross for a pretty simple equaliser to Bristol Rovers. Morecambe would take the lead again, though, through one of the new boys, Kieran Phillips, who's played in to restore the lead to the Shrimps. But Bristol Rovers got a second equaliser, new sign to themselves. Bobby Thomas, who's come in from Burnley, grabbed an equaliser as the points were shared between those two. And a 1-1 draw yesterday between Fleetwood Town and Wycombe Wanderers. Gareth McCleary sent off to Wycombe for an off-the-ball incident. But Wycombe still got the lead, an outstanding goal again from that man again, Anis Mehmeti. I don't know how many more times I can talk about how good this guy is and how important this guy is going to be to Wycombe's season, how he could be so high up the rankings at the end of this season. He's going to be sensational for them. But Fleetwood did get an equaliser from a new rival, Admiral Musquay, who had previously had a loan spell at Wycombe. So coming back to haunt his Stormer club there, and it ended up level at Highbury Stadium. I'm not going to go through the full table because we're going to leave it a few more games till we do, but we'll mention the teams leading the way. Ipswich Town, top of the pile, 17 points from 7 games. Portsmouth in second, also on 17, separated by just goal difference. The playoff spots currently containing Plymouth Argyle, Sheffield Wednesday, Cambridge United, and Peterborough United. And let me tell you, Cambridge fans love that they're above Peterborough in this table.
That is
they are very much enjoying that at the moment. They're going great.
And just on Bristol Rovers that you mentioned earlier, did anyone see Joey Barton's monologue in the week?
Oh, what's he done now?
He had I think it's 20 minutes he went on about everything that's wrong with football. He was asked a question by one of the local reporters and he went off on a 20-minute rant about everything that's wrong with football.
I'm impressed how you can make a 20-minute answer out of a question.
Went on about how referees are poor, how big clubs don't loan out players enough, which is ironic considering the goal scorer against them for Morecambe yesterday. Just a totally, a lot of it fair, a lot of it unfair, but just totally bizarre.
Can always trust Joey Barton to come up with some opinions, so we'll get people talking, certainly. Let's drop down and take a look at the world's best fourth tier.
League Two.
League Two, again, a lot of games to really pick from here, but we're going to kick it off, Chris, at Brunton Park. Let's talk about Carlisle United 3, Rochdale 3.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fair bit to talk about here.
Absolutely.
I'm going to start with a little bit of sad news from a Rochdale fan's perspective. That a local fan they nicknamed Moggy died in the week. Well, I think a couple of weeks ago, but they had a little bit of a sort of procession for him before the match yesterday, which was quite nice to see. He was a local fan that did quite a bit of fundraising, so it was good to see his work recognised. And then there were sort of two big bits of news for Rochdale on the playing side of things. One, they've brought in a new manager in Jim Bentley. He's well known for his time at Morecambe, but I think he spent 12 years.
No, it was about
plus
2 millennia, I think.
Yeah, he and saw them have a pretty meteoric rise up through the divisions and settled as quite a comfortable League Two side. He's had more relegation battles than you and I have had cooked dinners. So, it feels like it's probably a good fit given Rochdale's place at the moment. I know there's some questions over him. He, obviously left AFC, filed 2 leagues below. It's maybe not the most inspiring move, but he, if anyone can get them out of the precarious situation they're in, it's probably Jim Bentley. And he's made a good start to trying to achieve that by bringing in Scott Quigley on loan from Stockport County, who I think is just a fantastic signing.
Oh, I completely agree.
And of course showed that on his debut yesterday by getting 2 goals. Saw Rochdale take the lead, and then quickly pegged back about 10 minutes later by Josh Mellish. And then Scott Quigley got the assist for Devante Rodney to put Rochdale back in the lead, and then further extended that lead 2 minutes later himself. But in a very Rochdale fashion, Carlisle United then went on to get a second and eventually a third about 10 minutes from time. And for Rochdale fans, it's disappointing to lose after being 3-1 up. They looked probably the better side for large chunks of the game, and they looked significantly better generally in their attacking setup. Much thanks to Quigley, but not just down to him. And so there's a lot to be sort of encouraged by as a Rochdale fan, but still their defence remains incredibly sloppy.
I think we can use the term Rochdale scale, can't we? Because this is what we come to know from Rochdale the last 2 years. But and
especially from set pieces, they just look all over the place.
Yeah, goal for Paul Huntington, the equaliser to Carlisle. He's coming to them. He's getting up to match fitness. I think it'll be really good for them when he can fully get going as well. But it's all about Quigley. I mean, I loved him at Barrow. I think he's got a great all-round game to him, really. He's a big part in Barrow's survival in the last couple of seasons as well before going on to Stockport. And that could be a huge sign for Rochdale, as well as the Jim Bentley appointment.
For sure, yeah. I think it's a really smart move. I'm surprised, actually, that Stockport have got rid of him.
Well, Stockport, I think, deem Madden and Wootton to be the main starters. Yeah. I think maybe Stockport fans maybe not that pleased that Quigley went in. I don't think they did get people in the end, but it was a very late arrivals in the deadline day for them.
I saw some suggesting they weren't happy about him going to a possible relegation rival, but I think that's probably being a bit self-defeating for Stockport.
It hasn't been the best start to Stockport. I mean, they did win. We'll get onto that later on, of course, but that's a huge sign to them. And I think when you got him playing as a focal point with Sinclair and Rodney providing support, they went with Kelly in the attacking midfield role. They had James Ball and Diego in deep in midfield as well. There's something to like in this Rochdale team, and they need it because it's been a torrid start to the season.
Yeah, for sure.
But a draw in this game and a mad game, really, the kind of game we got used to seeing Rochdale do quite a lot of in League One, certainly a high-scoring affair from them. David, the league leaders, Leyton Orient, got a 2-0 win over Tranmere Rovers yesterday.
Yeah, Orient continuing their great start to this season. And I think to a certain degree it was probably never in doubt with the way they've been going so far. Only one change for Orient in this one, with Archibald dropping out of the squad for Satiriou. Or however you say that, because
No, you got that, Satiriou.
Good, that's good. And then Stephen Duke McKenna, deadline day signing, or loan signing from QPR, I believe. He came into the squad on the bench for this one. Tranmere didn't make any changes, but they did sign Paul Glatzel back on loan. I believe he made he was there last year, wasn't he? 21 appearances, scoring 6 goals. Was doing really well for them before his season was cut short by injury. And they signed Danel Sameu. I think that's how you say it. Yeah. He came in from Southampton and featured on the bench for them yesterday. Orient just continuing their great start to this season. Really unlucky from a Tranmere perspective for that first goal. Paul Smythe just absolutely whipped it across for Decris Cogley. It's just touched him.
I don't think it was for Decris Cogley, I've got to say.
Well, no, I don't think it was for him, but ultimately it has been, hasn't it? So goes in off of him for an own goal. Not the best start from a Tranmere perspective, but it gets even worse really when 5 minutes later, Paul Smythe doubles the lead with a really nice low-driven shot across the keeper. I feel like we're running out of superboles to...
It does feel like we're a bit rinse and repeat with Leyton Orient, really, aren't we now?
They're just, it's unbeaten so far this season. 6 wins, 1 draw. Only dropped 2 points throughout the whole season.
Charlie Kelman looking good as well.
Yeah, looking very good. Got the assist for the Smythe goal. Someone I would have liked to have seen Gills go for.
I think you'd take anyone at this point, wouldn't you?
Well, especially on the front line for sure. But I'm sure, maybe we'll gloss over that later. But Orient just, I don't want to say too much about them because, I want to be able to actually say stuff for the rest of the season. But 19 points from the first 7 games, looking very good as a start for them this season. Unfortunate for Tranmere. I think that's another one of the teams that for me I'm a little bit worried about. I'm not really sure. They've had a reasonable start to the season. Yeah, reasonable start to the season, but as you say, complete inconsistency. So it's just something they're going to need to work on, I suppose. I guess we'll see what happens moving forward. But I don't think they're one of the worst teams in the division. There's probably 2 or 3 that probably will.
Oh, there's more than 2 or 3 that are worse than them.
Well, there you go. So I'm sure they'll be okay. But Orient to Tranmere now.
Yeah. Orient phenomenal, really. We talked about the depth and forward options they've got. They just loaned out Harry Smith, their big striker as well. He's gone up a division, actually gone to Exeter, another one of their deadline day rivals as well. And they brought in a young lad called Jaden Weirham from Chelsea as well, who seemed to be pretty prolific at youth level as well to Chelsea. So let's see what impact he could bring as well. But Orient can do no wrong. Phenomenal team at the minute for sure. And they're still leading the way at the moment with an unbeaten record. And they're the only team left in League Two with an unbeaten record in the league, because Doncaster Rovers lost 3-1 at home to Mansfield Town yesterday. A lot of impact from George Lapsley in this game. It was initially put the ball into the box, it was cleared back out, and it was a spectacular volley from Ollie Clark that made it 1-0 to Mansfield Town. I quite like Jonathan Mitchell kind of diving into the net after the ball's already gone past him to just try and claim it afterwards, like it was actually making an effort to try and get there, but it already fired past him for the Mansfield opener. Great save from Christy Pym as well to deny George Miller header that would have given Doncaster a superb equaliser as well. A goal mass scramble should have really led to a Mansfield second, but somehow it stayed out. I'm still not quite sure how. That looked absolutely bonkers there. And Doncaster found themselves with a penalty. James Perch fouled Harrison Biggins, won the spot kick. Lee Tomlin converted it before half time to put Doncaster level with Mansfield heading into the break. Carl Hurst had a chance to Doncaster hit the post, but it was Mansfield who restored the lead. Good link-up play between Lucas Akins and George Lapsley, laying off to George Maris to fire in a goal for 2-1 as well. And after George Lapsley was fouled inside the box, Lucas Akins did what Lucas Akins does best, scores penalties. He's always been awesome at them. And they've got a few penalty taken options there, Mansfield. McLaughlin's taken them as well. But if you give Akins a penalty, you might as well start walking back to halfway line as far as I'm concerned. And I'm really pleased for Lucas Akins, because we talked about it already. He's had it tough at Mansfield, but he was very good here. He started up top. He linked up really well with George Lapsley, who played in an advanced midfield role behind him as well. I mentioned George Maris last week as well, and what I believe he brings to Mansfield midfield that, quite frankly, I don't think anyone else in that Mansfield midfield does. He played the full 90 yesterday, grabbed a goal, helped Mansfield pick up what is their first away win of the season as well. Ollie Clark certainly earning his plaudits with that fantastic goal as well. And this is a really significant result for Mansfield, because it brings to an end Doncaster Rovers' unbeaten start to the league season. Donny on deadline day brought in a young Liverpool forward called Max Waltman on loan. Mansfield Town didn't sign anyone deadline day. It was much to Nigel Clough's frustration, certainly, as he was looking to get a new striker in to cover for the injured Rhys Oates. There were a large number of names that he tried, but he had no luck with them. It could maybe still happen. You can still get 3 agents in, but he's got a few who can play up there at the moment, including Will Swan or Lucas Akins as striker options. And I wonder perhaps if this lack of an option might open up an opportunity for young James Gale to get some more minutes up top. He had a full 90 in midweek during the Ethel Trophy win, and he scored in that game as well, so we'll have to see with that. David, Northampton Town 3, Barrow 1.
Yeah, good game here, really. Unfortunate for Barrow, really. Pete Wildside in very good form before this one. Most notably, I think before even kicking off for this one was Bowen Apire playing as a forward 2. Northampton have been playing a 4-1-4-1 a lot this season, so it was really interesting to see them play a 4-4-2 in this one. But yeah, I mean, you know, as I said, Barrow in really good form, but Northampton just kind of blew them out of the water here. Josh Gordon cancelling out an early opener from Sam Hoskins. Kieran Bowie and Tyler Maguire both heading home just after half time. 5-minute burst of just Northampton dominance, really. Yeah, I mean, you know, there were periods of the game where Barrow were dominating, and they were rewarded for that when Sam Foley fed in Gordon, who rolled his man, beat Lee Burge at the near post. Really nice finish. But yeah, I mean, chances for Barrow as well towards the end. But Lee Burge producing an absolutely fantastic late save to deny Moyo. But yeah, I mean, can't be too disheartened if you're a Barrow fan. Fantastic start to this season. Pete Wild doing a fantastic job. Probably just the boost Northampton are going to want in this particular circumstance, and I'm sure it'll help them to push on to bigger and better things.
Absolutely, and Ali Koike really impressed me as one of the left-back role. I wasn't entirely sure he was going to be there. With some rumours he might have well moved before the end of the deadline, but he's going to keep him, and he's a really good left-back option for them as well. Another goal for Sam Hoskins. He's up to 8 now in League 2. Loads of praise as well for Mark Leonard in midfield. Gab Sutton described him as the League 2 Pirlo. I personally think Andrea Pirlo is the Italian Mark Leonard. He's a sensational player. An injury to Ben Fox as well, which I'm gutted about, because it's not happening for him at the minute. He hasn't really had the chance to fully get going in that midfield to Northampton, and disappointing for him. But when you've got McWilliams in there, Leonard as options as well, he can bring Jack Sowerby as well. It's good to Northampton to have these options to them, and that is an excellent win for them yesterday, with Leonard playing a really starring part in midfield as well. Another win, David, this one away from home. Crewe Alexandra 1, Stevenage 2.
Yeah, Stevenage on fantastic form and a brilliant squad that Steve Evans has built so far there. Second half double from Jamie Reid. Saw Stevenage come from behind. Really good game. And a really strong second half performance. I mean, Rod McDonald put Crewe into the lead after Connor Thomas missed a penalty for them in the first half. Just look like the Stevenage team look very strong. I mean, I think we knew they were going to be I think we knew by the signings they were making that they were going to be a good team, but I'm not quite sure we thought they were maybe going to be this strong. We knew they were going to cause problems with the physicality that they would have. But just in general, like, I personally would say that it's quite surprised me the run they've been on and kind of the way they've showed their strength so far this season. I mean, they currently sit second in the table, 3 points behind Orient. Steve Evans doing a fantastic job. I think, it just shows when you're given a decent budget and you're given the time and opportunity what you can potentially do at this level. So, here. I couldn't possibly think what you're talking about. But yeah, it's as I say, another good win and a really nice away win for Stevenage. I'm sure they'll be more than happy with that.
A bit like with Leyton Orient, really. We're kind of rinsing and repeating ourselves, really, with Stevenage and the start they've had to the season. They got an Alex Gilby on loan on deadline day from Charlton as well. He's going to add to the midfield options. They're great. I still think Jake Reeves is such a underrated, pivotal part of this team, really. His ability to run the channels that need to be as well is really important with a formation that I think naturally is quite narrow, especially yesterday. They were 5-3-2 with the width really provided by Saxon earlier at left wing back and Luther Wilden at right wing back as well. So when Reeves is able to run the channels, he's really integral to that as well. And that was another superb one to Stevenage. No late goals yesterday to Stevenage, but they got the job done earlier. I'm sure the fans were a bit more grateful about that, and a great win away at Crewe Alexandra for them. Another away win, this one by 2-0. Newport County 0, Grimsby Town 2. Harry Clifton had a shot that was saved by Nick Townsend. Lewis Richardson had an effort from close range that was blocked for Grimsby as well. And Grimsby would get the lead when Anthony Driscoll-Glennon laid the ball off for Bryn Morris to fire in the opener into the empty left side of the goal after laying off from a free kick. Cameron Norman came very close to an equaliser for Newport County, a header that was cleared off the line and kept out of the net by Grimsby, and Clifton would end up grabbing a second goal for Grimsby, collecting a loose ball, wriggling into space in the box and grabbing a second goal for the Mariners to secure an excellent win against the Newport side that were looking to increase on a winning run that they'd had recently. We went into depth on Grimsby Town last week and the quality Paul Hurst possesses. They're currently enjoying a really good run of form that needs to be noticed, by the way. They're 6 unbeaten in the league after their opening day defeat to Leeds, Leyton Orient. 3 of those 6 unbeaten games are wins as well. They've still got a game in hand on those above them in the table at the moment. Their rearranged game with Carlisle United is scheduled for the end of the month, for the 27th of September, so that's to watch as well. Got a couple of attacking players in on loan for the Mariners on deadline day. They got Lewis Richardson in from Burnley. He started alongside Ryan Taylor up top yesterday. They brought in Kendra Simmons as well, the youngster from Birmingham City too. But the transfer deadline day that really got Grimsby fans buzzing was Alex Hunt, who they brought permanently now in from Sheffield Wednesday. He's a 22-year-old midfielder. He was originally on loan at Grimsby during the first half of last season whilst they were in National League, and he spent the second half of last season at Oldham Athletic, didn't he, Chris?
He did, yeah. Didn't particularly blow me away. He certainly wasn't our worst player, but it's sort of quite hard to judge him in that Oldham team in the circumstances the club was in. Grimsby fans probably have a better idea of him, and they were happy with him at the start of the season. So I think, when you've had that good run of form at a club and then you get to go back on a permanent basis, it can quite often work quite nicely. I think.
Absolutely. They were buzzing to see him back, and they got him on a 3-year deal, and excited to see what he brings to a midfield that up to now has been pretty consistent, with Holohan, Morris and Kieran Green featuring in there as well. Another one to talk about, this one at home. Bradford City 2, Walsall 1, a win at Valley Parade for the Bantams. Walsall won a penalty after Ramoni Critchlow brought down Tom Knowles. Danny Johnson stepped up. Now, I was expecting a player like him to go and tuck it in the corner and put it away, but I thought that was a pretty poor penalty, really. Went pretty central to me. Harry Lewis ended up saving it, and Bradford got the lead. A wicked cross from Brad Halliday, the right back, from very deep on the edge of the byline. Crossed in, fired in by Andy Cook inside the box for the first time. They grabbed a second before half-time with an absolute thizzer off the left from Cian Harrod after cutting in off the left-hand side. That was a fantastic goal. Donovan Daniels stabbed one in for 2-1, but Bradford City held on to the lead for the win. Bradford fans were pretty honest after this. They feel like they've stolen that from Walsall, in truth. There was a lot of praise to Michael Flynn's side from Bantam supporters, after a pretty dominant Walsall display that Bradford won really with a pair of absolutely cracking goals from Cook and Harrett. Harry Lewis has certainly been proving his worth in goal for the Bantams. He was one of a large number of signings that Mark Hughes made during this recent summer window, himself coming in from Southampton on a permanent deal. And they've added a pair of loan signings on deadline day for Bradford as well. They've got Tyreek Wright in from Aston Villa. It's his 4th consecutive loan spell now in League Two. He's previously been at Walsall, Salford City and Colchester United. And of course, the big one probably from Bradford on deadline day was Dion Pereira, who's come back in on loan from Luton Town. It's a move that he wanted to happen. It's a move that the Bradford City fans wanted to happen. And it's going to be great to see him in action again. Bradford City have got a very nice collection of winger options now and a striker in Andy Cook who is in fine scoring form. It's very healthy competition up top for Mark Hughes is to pick from at current, and it can only be a good thing for Bradford ahead of the rest of the season. Another 2-1 home win, this one at Gandon Green Lane. Sutton United 2, Harrogate Town 1. The opener from Harry Beautyman, one of Sutton's midfielders, getting on the end of a very driven Joe Kitsey cross. Dior Angus, one of Harrogate's new deadline day signings, fired a shot onto the post. Another one of their new arrivals, Josh Coley, who's on loan from Exeter City. If he'd scored that goal, it was all, I'd have called it Bergkamp-esque really, the flicks he did to get away through his opponents and fired the shot onto the bar. That would have been one of the finest goals I've seen the weekend, really. I love seeing that. I was at this game at Gandon Green Lane. I did really enjoy the occasion as well. Harrogate got a spell of possession towards the end of the first half, rather against the run of play, and it ended up being a penalty given to them after a foul, which Luke Armstrong stepped up and converted, but Sutton got back into the game. They found a winner in the second half through Killian Kouassi, who'd come on 4 minutes earlier. He pounced for his third senior goal. He's a product of the Sutton United Academy as well, and that is wonderful to see a homegrown player for them getting a goal as another striker option to them as well. One of Harrogate's own as well, George Herbury, sent off with the game at 2-1 as well, and they finished the game with 10 men and without any points. I don't see a reason why Sutton United, to be honest, couldn't repeat what they did last year. Last season was phenomenal, making the EFL Trophy final, coming so close to the playoffs as well. I don't see any reason why they couldn't do that again. It's very much as Harrogate's assistant manager Paul Thirlwell said in his interview before the weekend. Sutton United are the best in the league at what they do. There's nothing complex about how they play, and there doesn't need to be. The ball goes from back to front very quickly, crosses are fired into the box where there are always men in place to attack them. Corners in particular are sent deep into the box into a crowded area, where the goalkeeper at best really can punch it. It's very difficult to handle this kind of play if you're an opposition player. I think naturally when you watch Sutton United, you find the stand-up players are probably their wingers. Will Randall off the left, Joyce Northville off the right, who's on loan from Luton Town. They're very thorough on the ball. They're getting better and better as the weeks go on. There's others in the team, though, that I think deserve plaudits. Notably for me is Sutton's superb fullback pairing. They've got Rob Milson at left back and Joe Kitsey at right back. They cause a lot of problems with the delivery they provide. Joe Kitsey's got a long throw on him. Rob Milson takes corners. He's caused a lot of problems with his in-swing delivery from set pieces as well. If they were younger than the pair are now, Rob Milson's 35, by the way, I think they could well have been playing higher at the pyramid right now after the seasons they had last year and certainly into this season as well. I'm such a big fan of both of them, and they're a really big part of a Sutton United team that needs to be kept an eye on again because they are very, very good at what they do and they need to be watched. They could have a good season against the Shore. Chris, another home win. Stockport County 1, AFC Wimbledon 0.
Yeah, much needed win for County. I noticed in the week actually he didn't start yesterday, but they brought in Chris Hussey, who I think is a really good signing, bit of a promotion expert from this level, and I think it'll get County, just give him an extra good head. They started the game pretty well, 11 minutes in, good header from Fraser Horsfall, but it was really it was in from a corner, I think, and it was really quite weak marking from AFC Wimbledon.
Well, there was no one at the back post. He was beyond the back post, and there was no one there.
He was really quite deep and just sort of ran in and scored and was wheeling away quite happy. And I know he's a big lad, he's difficult to defend, but they've really got to be better with that. They need to be working on the training ground, and they nearly got caught out in a similar fashion a couple of times during the game. It only finished 1-0, but actually I think by and large County were the dominant side, and lacking a bit in confidence after a weak start to the season in terms of results, sort of performing quite well but not getting the wins. So I think they can come away from this pretty happy. Don's really lacking defensively, as I say, but they did bring in a defender on loan from Bristol City, Riley Towler, who hopefully can just sort of steady things a bit at the back for them. Because
Riley Towler is the one, if you haven't seen it yet, and this is nothing football related, but Bristol's, you know that old debate about the doors or wheels in the world one? It was asked to him by Bristol City's media team, and he gets into this really deep, passionate answer about it, and it's the most Bristolian thing I've ever heard in my life. I love it. It's fantastic. That's got nothing to do with him as a footballer, I should add, but I just think it's the kind of thing I've known Riley Taylor when I first heard about the name. So let's see exactly how it goes for AFC Wimbledon as well. A lot of praise to Carl Wooten, certainly for Stockport's performance up top for them was really good alongside Crankshaw. They haven't got Paddy Mann at the moment, he's out suspended. They've had a lot of red cards, Stockport, at the start of the season.
They have, yeah.
It's not been great for them, but this is a great win for them here. And I like the Chris Hussey signing, as you mentioned as well, Chris. I think he's an excellent wing-back option for them.
Yeah, for sure. Real, a bit of an older head, bit of an expert at this level. He's a good fit.
Brought in a young lad from Ireland as well, who could be one for the future to keep an eye on.
3
draws to wrap up League 2. Salford City 2, Crawley Town 2. Open up to Salford City, Callum Hendry scoring from an Ep224 low cross. Salford City, of course, are going to be without Brandon Thomas Asante now. He's bought by West Brom. He's scoring his debut with West Brom as well. Got a 98th minute equaliser, I think, for them at the start of the weekend as well. He's going to be terrific for them. He's one of the gems at the lower league level. It's going to be a shame to see him not in the lower leagues anymore, but I think he's really deserving of that chance in the Championship. He's been such a great player for Salford now, grown so well for them, and he'll be excellent, I'm sure, for West Brom in the Championship. Tom Nichols got an equaliser to Crawley Town, thumping in an equaliser to them. Salford restored their lead through Ryan Watson after a really well-worked corner routine as well, but Crawley got the points. Ludwig Francelet, who's back from injury, able to bundle the ball in for an equaliser to 2-2. Crawley Town still without a league win, I believe, but that's a lot better, certainly from them, for sure. A draw between Colchester United and Hartlepool United at the Colchester Community Stadium. Wes McDonald struck the opener into Hartlepool. They're still waiting for a league win. It looks a priceless moment for them, and they came so close to getting that first league victory this season, the Pools, but were denied in the 94th minute by a header from a Colchester United debutant, Bez Labala as well. Hartlepool still without a league win. Colchester got Matty Longstaff in on loan on deadline day as well from Newcastle United. I mean, it was a pretty high-profile one when he went to Mansfield last season. It feels...
It's a hell of a travel, though, isn't it? Newcastle to Colchester.
Yeah, I suppose it is. I haven't really given it a thought, but I find it really interesting that Longstaff's spending another season at League 2 level, really. I thought he was pretty good for Mansfield.
A long commute.
Well, I'd imagine he'd move down there, wouldn't he?
You'd hope so.
You'd have to, certainly. He'd been living in Newcastle previously, but that'd be exciting to see him to Colchester. And the only goalless draw yesterday, Gillingham Town 0, Swindon Town 0. One of Gill's deadline day signings, Haji Manoga, sent off the 2 yellow cards inside just 10 minutes. Great debut for him. But no goals ultimately in this game. Scott Cashcott hitting the post. Razorback Tracy had a header that was saved by Glenn Morris. David, Gillingham have now gone more than 10 hours without scoring a goal in any competition. If you want my advice on how to sort this out, go and organise a friendly against Burton Albion. That would be my advice.
I mean, it's, to be fair, the game yesterday in isolation, a man gets sent off. I won't get into the politics of the yellow cards.
You were giving that to us before we started recording.
Yeah,
you had a spectacular rant about it.
Yeah, I don't want to continue that again. But regardless of that, go down. To me, I thought this was definitely a game of two halves. Gillingham, despite going down to 10 men, I felt personally that we were the better side in the first half. I mean, second half was an absolute onslaught. It was just, defend for your lives and put your bodies on the line. So no one can question the commitment from the Gillingham players yesterday. But, ultimately, something's got to change. We had some potential opportunities. We seemed all right, but I suppose, we looked good for the kind of 10 minutes before the sending off. The game plan really seemed to be working, and then have to change everything up. Big shout to Hakeem Adelaken though. He played a makeshift right back role from when Manogo was sent off, and he was actually really good. You just had Will Wright and David Tutonda just coaching him while standing on the line. It was very interesting to hear their coaching tips as well. But yeah, I mean, not great. Need to find a way to score. For me, we're doing
against Burton, I tell you.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing okay. we're doing okay, but it needs to be much better.
They do badly need goals. Swindon, of course, on deadline day brought in quite a number of players. A notable one for me, probably Morgan Roberts, who was originally Northampton Town, went down to the league, had a very good time with Banbury United. Swindon brought him back into the Football League now. Harry McCurdy's gone. He's left the box office player's gone. He's moved to Hibernian. He's playing in the Scottish Premiership now. I'm going to miss him, to be honest. I mean, he was a wacky character. He was certainly someone who always grabbed the headlines, but he was one hell of a player as well. The season he had last year under Ben Garner is a perfect example of how good a player he can be. He's going to love the Edinburgh Derby up there. I can't wait till Hearts play Hibs, because he's going to be he loves that occasion. He's going to absolutely love that, and it's going to be fun to see how he goes to Hibernian, certainly. But Gills, David, deadline day, we were looking to some signings, 2 defensive ones, Manoga in, of course, and Robbie McKenzie back as well.
Yeah, obviously McKenzie being a really versatile player, can play CDM, right back, left back, centre back. I imagine most notably we'll probably deploy him. Now we might deploy him at right back. But I would have assumed before the Manoga sending off that we probably would have deployed him in midfield. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that goes some way to showing our ambition as a club, to be honest, at the fact that, a player that kind of didn't want to sign a contract at the end of last season has come back because he's kind of not found anywhere else to go. Don't get me wrong, League One quality player and very good player on his day. Had a big part in our season last year in the games that we kind of did do well in, which were obviously very few and far between. But it worries me. It worries me, that philosophy, and getting Nicky Shorey in to be sort of a recruitment driver. I don't know how much difference that makes if you don't have the finances to support, or if you're not looking for the right kind of player. We spent a long time, Harry Smith, who went to Exeter, we were rumoured on deadline day that was who we were targeting. So it's a real shame that, that's how it's all turned out. But just kind of got to hope and pray till January now, unless Harris can come up with some sort of coaching miracle.
I'll see you at Boundary Park next season.
I hope not. I really, really hope not.
I'm starting to think this pod curse us.
Yeah. Do you know what? I just
causes misery for
James. This is James's fault. My first year on this pod is our relegation, and before that we were the longest consistent team in League One at that point. And then I joined this podcast, my first year on it, debut year, and
what? We were the longest serving team in League One when I joined this podcast.
It's just James's fault, isn't it?
We were also, because I think I started doing it properly in the January of 2018 or something like that, and we'd just been on a bit of a push towards the top half.
Are you listening, James?
Of League One, and then ended up getting relegated, and now look at us now. I'm not even supporting a team in D3 or D4.
It's going to be do you know what? It's going to be absolutely cataclysmic if there are two people that are hosting this podcast, like that are joining in on this podcast, but neither team.
We're looking to recruit some Oxford United fans to next join us on the podcast. Anyone who wants it, come and get involved. One goal in 7 league games to Gillingham. That's pretty ugly, really, I've got to say.
Abysmal. Yeah.
Abysmal,
3 goals across the season if you include the 2 we scored against Wimbledon in the League Cup.
You're through to the third round of the League Cup, though, aren't you?
Yeah. Brentford away.
Brentford away. Oh boy, that's brought back memories, hasn't it, Chris?
Did we have them last year? I can't remember.
Yeah, I was at that game.
Was that
the 7-0, yeah.
I was trying to remember.
Yes, that was the 7-0. I remember it quite clearly.
I watched it on BT. I was trying to remember if it was Brentford or Bournemouth, but I've written off most of last season from my memory.
With good reason.
Yeah.
It's a game I'm going to try and go to as well, to be fair. It's one of those that, if I can get a ticket for it, I'll absolutely be on it, because, it's not often you get to be drubbed by Premier League opposition.
No, you're going to win on penalties and go through again.
I'd love to go to Brentford's new ground. I love Brentford's old ground when they were in League One. I went a few times, and their new ground looks really smart.
It's a good ground, very modern design to it, quite packed in because of the location it's in as well. It's a good stadium.
They built it on a triangular plot of land
between railway lines. Yeah,
it's a really interesting story on how they ended up getting that plot of land. If anyone's ever got a bit of spare time to read up on it.
I'm sure people can find it somewhere, yeah. Let's go through the League 2 table to wrap it up. We'll start look at the top. Leyton Orient still lead the way, 19 points from a possible 21. Phenomenal start, really, for Richard Wellens' side. Still unbeaten as well in the league, going superbly. The order 2 automatic spots taken up by Stevenage and Barrow. Steve Evans and Pete Wild still enjoying phenomenal starts to their times with their clubs as well. Salford City, Northampton Town, Doncaster Rovers and Mansfield Town wrap up the current playoff places as well. And that's going to wrap up our episode this week. David Jenkins, thank you very much for your input.
Thank you, Edward Walker.
Chris Stringer, thank you very much for your input.
It's been a pleasure.
And we will see you next week for more from the world's best third and fourth tiers. We'll see you then. Goodbye.